Hi, my name is Terence Lee. I'm here to talk about a paper I have in the most recent issue of this course, Studies in the Cultural Politics of Education. This is the December 2014 issue. The paper is entitled Inculcating Creativity, Culture as Public Pedagogy in Singapore. Now, the paper has three scaffolded themes, if you like. Firstly, it's about culture, or public culture, or normative culture that's most pervasive in any society. The paper is also about cultural policy. Here, the term cultural policy is applied in a very broad Foucauldian sense, exhibited in the broader concept of cultural citizenship, or social norms, cultural norms that citizens are required to have in any society. And the third theme of the paper is on public pedagogy. Now, public pedagogy is gaining traction these days because it combines the formal and the informal aspects of education, which is not necessarily in the classroom, but in culture and society around us. So the way in which culture is presented forms part of their education. Now, I argue in this paper that the Singapore government's attempt to build a creative nation, a mission that originated in the early 2000s, a little more than 10 years ago, has a very specific economic intent, which is consistent with pretty much the rest of Singapore, to boost its economic bottom line. The desire is to increase the GDP contribution of its creative media, arts, and cultural sectors to around about 6%. But at the same time, and this is where it gets problematic, it continues to want to clamp down on dissent, on social unruly social problems, political boundaries, and so on. So why did I write the paper? I was in fact motivated by a fairly recent spate of events, graffiti around Singapore. Now, it's quite well known that Singapore shuns any form of public nuisance, and graffiti is one of the big ones. There were trains that were spray painted back in 2012. There was also an episode earlier in 2014 when high-rise public apartments had anti-government messages sprayed all over it at the rooftop. And again, earlier, recently in November 2014, there was another round of graffiti on public trains. But the one that drew my attention to this issue was an episode when a rather well-known street artist by the name of Samantha Low went around city streets spraying interesting local terms, such as my grandfather's road, and sparked a fairly lengthy debate about whether such things should be encouraged, permitted, and so on. So there was a bit of debate, and at the end, she was handed a kind of a community service order as a form of punishment. Now, what that drew my attention to was the shift in public pedagogic initiatives in Singapore, right? While on the one hand, the government wants to encourage creativity to thrive, on the other hand, it's doing exactly the opposite. So in essence, my paper identifies the power of overt public pedagogy in the construct of Singapore from its early days of independence until today. It attempts to apply the same format to our current era of creativity and innovation, which is not just local but global. Hence the oxymoronic title of my paper, Inculcating Creativity. It tries to do that onto a citizenry that's been schooled in being compliant, which is not just challenging, it's arguably undoable for a range of reasons I highlight in the paper. So I do urge people to have a read of the paper to get the full sense of my broader argument, and I appreciate your time in watching this. Thank you.